The other big aha that I had when I discovered that the consumption code is all about the way that money is consumed, not about how it's actually earned. And so you don't actually need to earn much. You just need to change the way that you consume it. But the other big aha is that only a few people in life will ever get to experience anything that even remotely comes close to their unmet potential or their unaccessed potential. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Not everybody will be successful because not everybody will actually get an opportunity to work within their natural genius state. The way that we're processed in society is basically it's the one ingredient into the sausage machine. And we come out with the ability to earn, spend and borrow. And it doesn't matter what flavour that earn, spend and borrow is. It only matters what the results are. And the results are either you have the amount of time, money and freedom you want, or you don't have the amount of time, money and freedom. And it's not a right, wrong, good, bad thing. It's just that, you know, basically society wants workers, and to have a really good governable existence, we need rules and regulations, and we need to be basically, you know, shoveled along at about the same rate over and over again, because we need predictability, we need certainty, we need sameness. That means that enterprise can build enterprise on sameness and predictability and servitude. So we want more at that end and fewer at this end. And so that was a really big aha for me. Now, if you manage to basically have the type of genius that society wants, you'll actually do really well. But most people don't. They have a different genius, and so you're actually forced to use other mental capacities that are not the innate strengths that you were actually born with. And I'll explain that as we go through. But that was the other big aha. Not everybody will be successful because not everybody will actually get an opportunity to use their unique form of genius. And if you do crack that code and tap into your unique form of genius, it's likely that you'll actually only succeed in a few industries or a few vehicles or mediums or areas that suit your particular form of genius. Okay? So it becomes a rather narrow pathway. And if you think about the most successful people on the planet Earth, bar none, have all got there because they've actually focused on their form of genius in a very, very narrow field. And so that's what we want to do. We want to see if we can actually move to there, because you can actually have your genius assessed and you can change the codes and you can actually go down that pathway. To give you an example, if we look at somebody like Oprah. Now, Oprah is one of the most successful talk show hosts that there has ever been. I don't think there's ever been anybody as successful by any number of different measures, you know, viewer participation, dollars generated, sponsorship, whatever it is, longevity in the system. There's never been anybody quite as successful as Oprah. But if she actually tried to build her wealth outside her area of genius, let's say if she tried to build her wealth, let's say through shares, it's very, very likely that she wouldn't actually be, she wouldn't succeed at all. If you think about Warren Buffett. Now, Warren Buffett is, you know, the second most wealthiest person on the planet Earth. If you think about Warren Buffett trying to do, if you know Warren Buffett, you'll actually know the funny side of this. If you don't know Warren Buffett, you'll just have to laugh along. But if you think about, you know, if Warren Buffett actually became a talk show host, he would probably starve. Well, it certainly wouldn't do as well as Oprah, because his genius is actually quite different. And so what we want to do is we want to take an X-ray of your mind. Now, we can actually do that, by the way. So if you could take an X-ray of your mind, though, what you would actually find there is that you actually have a hidden genius. The genius is something that you are born with. It's something that nature gave you. Okay, so you've got blue eyes, nature gave you that. Your results are not anything to do with nature by and large, they've got everything to do with nurture. Okay, so your personality is learned, your results is learned, your circumstances, that's all learned behaviour. In other words, if you grew up in a different culture, you would be a different you, but you'd still be in the same body. You still have the same blue or brown eyes. You would just be a totally, you'd express yourself and you would generate, you'd live totally different lifestyle if you were born in a culture around the other side of the planet. Okay, so we want to know who you were before you learned to be you. That's how we find your genius. Now that genius is actually still within you. But school wasn't interested in you working in your genius because it wanted something else from you. It wanted predictability, it wanted sameness, it wanted servitude, it wanted conformity, it wanted all of these things for you to be a good consumer, earn, spend and borrow, earn, spend and borrow. That's all it wants for you. On top of that, we can actually build a new world. Everybody has their own talent and everybody has their own form of genius. You may not be working in your form of genius, you may not even know what it is, but it's still there. It's still there and you can learn to tap into it. Your genius describes actually how your mind works at its deepest levels before it learned to work in this other way, because it's very good. Our mind's very adaptable. We want to know how your mind actually thinks about, how, not what it thinks about, how does it think about what it thinks about. We want to know how your mind actually perceives, how does it gather in information. I mean, information comes in through our senses, but it doesn't tell us how that information hits the attention centres of our mind. So we want to know, how does information hit the attention centres of your mind? How do you make sense of what it is that you're seeing? Because we all do it differently. We all do it differently. We also want to know, how does it make subconscious decisions based on the information that it's actually got coming in? So how does it perceive? How does it make decisions uniquely for you? Now, if that's what you're naturally gifted at, if we start lining up strategies and mediums and techniques and opportunities to fit your particular genius, then that is when you are going to be the most productive, and it's going to take half the effort, because now in that state for you time will disappear. Whenever you're conscious of time, you're not in that state, you're in somewhere else. Okay, so that's what we want to do. It's got a tremendous influence on every single aspect of your life, exactly the same as the code has. It's got a tremendous influence on not only the way that your life is influenced, but the enterprise and the type of freedom that you can generate from that. If we look at Oprah, her form of genius is a style that is always looking forward. If you know anything about Oprah's life and Oprah's background, you will know that she has had to overcome some of the most enormous challenges that you wouldn't wish upon anybody. And look, not only does it take courage, but it took a particular form of genius, one that could see past the challenges, the problems, the hurts, the damage. One that could see a much bigger picture. One that could always see a better place. So that's her particular style, and that style allows her to connect with so many people and to harmonise with those people. It's that particular style of genius that has allowed her to overcome all of those early setbacks and all of those early challenges. Even if you followed exactly what Oprah did, if you didn't have exactly the same form of genius style as her, it's unlikely that you would actually get the same results, because your genius style was not the same as hers. Does that make sense? So then we've got to say, okay, what about other people? What sort of style of genius do they have? Well, if you look at Warren Buffett has what they call a memory style of genius. And the memory style of genius looks the other way. So it actually always looking to the past. It hardly ever looks forward. It goes and it researches the past and it collects an enormous amount of data and information. So he's got a really strong preference for collating information. He's got a really strong preference for maintaining systems, improving systems, tweaking systems, but he doesn't go out there and invent new stuff. He's a tried and a true and a stay the path and a stay the course. He basically just does the opposite of what everybody else is doing, and stays and stays and stays. So he has a wonderful gift for doing all of this, collating this information, systemizing processes, systemizing businesses, and staying the path. And it's a tremendous sense of genius. Ideally suited to proven, low-risk, long-term investment strategies. And of course, he's the world's expert in this. The way that Buffett collects information and then the way that he makes decisions based on that information is actually not the same as the way that other people do it. If it was exactly the same, and then you had the support to do what he was doing, then it's likely that you would actually be in a far better position. He's memory genius, and the way that he's developed it, because that's now part of the nurture process, isn't it? You can have this natural talent, now you need it to be nurtured and developed. And so the way that he is nurtured and developed is actually what gives him a huge edge. If we look at Donald Trump, minus the hair. I couldn't find one with hair, so we'll just have to... But we've got the apprentice sort of pose, right? Donald Trump has got a genius style, and that's actually called sensation. And sensation is an in here and in the moment, in the here and in the now sort of... these guys are the adrenaline junkies. It's really good at sales, and it's really good at deal making, because it's a style of genius that loves being in the moment. It doesn't look forward and it doesn't look back. It's so totally glued to the present, and whatever can happen now in the present is something that they're really interested in. And at the extreme, these people jump off buildings with like little bits of rag. You know, at the extreme, they jump off cliffs with little bits of like rubber bands. I mean, you know, I don't know why, but I'm a Tasmanian. You wouldn't get us doing anything like that. But he's interested in the anticipated outcomes. In fact, the real outcomes don't matter, because it's the anticipation that gets the you know, the blood sort of boiling and running. Trump thrives on deal making. He thrives on excitement. He thrives on challenges. He thrives on winning. He's good at calculating all of the risks and then all of the angles and then going for it. Now, he's been up and down a few times. If you've been following him over the years, he's been probably broken rich more times than you know, most people have. He's attracted to high stakes processes because those high stakes processes give him immediate involvement. It really gives him the adrenaline surge that he craves for, you know, a deal maker that really is in the here and now. Now, if Oprah, Buffett and Trump didn't work with their geniuses in their genius styles, then it's highly unlikely that we'd actually know about them. It's highly unlikely that they'd be successful, and they would just be another sort of cog in the wheel, so to speak, and we wouldn't hear much about them. Now, once you understand your genius style, you can use your genius style to dramatically improve your results. In fact, if you start changing the code through your genius style, then you're going to get there twice as quick, because there's no resistance going on. And most of the time consumption in when you're learning new stuff is actually, it's chewed up in the resistance to learning it, not the actual skill development of it. It's the will I, the won't I, the vacillation, the will I, won't I, oh, it's too hard, I'll bail out, no, I'll go do it again. It's actually not chewed up in the actual time it takes you to learn. You can also predict whether you're actually on the right path. And if you find yourself on the wrong path, or in the wrong business, or in the wrong enterprise, or in the wrong opportunity, in the wrong life, you can actually change. You can actually deviate out of that and back into what's a more promising path. So here we are. We've got an understanding of this money code, and we've got an understanding that from here you've got to start making choices and decisions. And if you start making choices and decisions within respect of changing your money code, then the amount of choices and decisions that you've got to start thinking about become quite numerous. And in fact, they can actually be sort of a little bit overwhelming. Because when you think about it, you've got to start thinking about your job. Do you like your job? Is the job toxic? Do you like the traffic? Do you like the monotony? Do you like the people? Is the people toxic? Is there in fact security? And you've got to start thinking about all of these decisions, whether or not you actually want to keep selling your time for wages, whether or not you're going to pump more into superannuation. Will that actually give you the freedom? And so there's a whole lot of decisions that you need to start making about that. And then you start thinking about, well, yes, but what do I feel personally? You know, am I full of stress? Am I full of debt? Am I full of, lack of confidence? Do I hear myself saying that I've got no time, no money, no confidence, no space in order to pursue something? What about the children? What if I'm worried? You know, what will happen if all of these things you've got to start thinking about, and maybe you don't even have support. But then somebody comes along and says, look, I think you need to start trading because that's the way that you go. And so then you're going to start thinking about, well, do I actually go in there and start doing another program, learning another thing? If I'm going to trade, do I trade options? Do I trade shares? Will it be long-term, short-term? Will it be Forex? You know, is somebody going to wave another sort of bright, shiny object at me and that will be the answer? It isn't the answer. It's never the answer until you actually change your code. But again, there's an enormous amount of choices that you have to start thinking about. And then you start, well, okay, well, what about real estate? Well, there's any amount of choices that you can start making in real estate because there's wonderful opportunities in real estate. And of course, that's where I started. But again, is it for the long term? Is it you're going to buy and hold? Is it you're going to renovate something? Is it something that you're going to use to develop returns? Is it going to be for cash flows? Do you want to hold more mortgages? What about management and all of those sorts of things? And then we're going to start thinking about business. Well, how many types of businesses are there? Is wholesale, resale? Are you going to license something? Are you going to sort of, get into the distribution business? What are you going to do? And there's a whole bunch of choices that you can start. Are you going to franchise it? Do you want to get into some sort of service orientated? Do you want to get into a leverage process? And then you've got to start thinking about the internet because now there are so many choices that you can make with the internet. And again, there's oodles and oodles and oodles. And when you start thinking about, well, the personal development phase of that, because now you've got to develop yourself. I mean, it really becomes daunting, isn't it? But that's why when you start to work with your genius, because here's what your genius does. It basically shortcuts all of that. It takes the most direct route through this sort of plethora or through this minefield of all of the choices that you could make so that you get the important outcomes that are specifically designated to you. And not everybody wants the same outcome. So it's not a sausage factory. It's everybody is an individual and everybody gets what's important for them. If you decide that you want to go after it, because you can decide not to go after it, and then again you just experience whatever results that you're experiencing now. And again, it's no right, wrong, good or bad, it just is. But there's two types of is. There's one with freedom and time and money, and there's one without freedom and time and money. They're equally ises. It's just a matter of what experience do you want. Aligning your natural behavioural preferences makes you far more likely to pursue the right opportunities in the right way at the right time to get the results that you desire. And that's a well-known process among the people who have gone and developed their own enterprise codes within their own geniuses. So you need to know how to use and develop your genius type so that it benefits you directly with the most important outcomes specifically for you. And that's what I help people do. Develop the code through the genius so that they get the outcome that's specific for them. And that's why I do so much one-on-one mentoring for people. The problem is that most people don't know what their actual genius style is. And most people probably have never even heard of it. So they get into the wrong business. Or they actually get into the actual wrong wealth generating strategies for them. It's not, how many times have you seen people do businesses or do wealth generating strategies and you hear them say, it didn't work? Well, that's actually not true, because it does work. Because some people actually get their freedom from exactly the same strategies and the same business opportunities that they said didn't work. What in fact they should be saying is that it didn't suit my genius, but they didn't know how to say that. It's not part of our language structure, so we say it didn't work, okay? But it's actually not the vehicle, it's the way the vehicle is driven, okay? The car didn't crash by itself. It needed somebody to make it go forward, and then it bingled. And so using the wrong wealth strategies that work for others but it doesn't actually work for them is actually a fault of being in the wrong strategy with the wrong vehicle or the wrong cognitive process. The best way to know what your genius style is to actually do the genius test. Now, some of you actually have done the genius test and you'll actually be getting your results back, and when you've read that, of course, we'll catch up and we'll sit down and we'll go through that. It's a 15-page report, takes about 20 minutes, somewhere 20 to 30 minutes. And it's really, really well worth it, because it's literally taking an x-ray of your mind to see, you know, what innate strengths and genius style you were actually born with. It's still there, we just need to unearth it. So if you haven't done the genius test, here's just a few hints that can help you start thinking at least a bit about the way that your mind might actually work, so that you can understand a little bit about it. So the first thing is whether you experience a lot of resistances in your experience. Are you the type of person that is sort of has the fortunate ability to continually find problems? Or are you the type of person that has the fortunate ability to continually find solutions? See, we've got to know how the mind works at its deepest levels. And so one way it works, it continually finds problems. Another way that it works, it continually finds solutions. What we need to do is to start shifting those boundaries, just even by 5% either way, and it allows those people that literally find problems to start using a few solutions, and the people that find solutions to actually match with the problem, so that they can actually develop more collection points, of course, or more permissions for the value that they can offer. So it really talks about which way the mind is perceiving, and they're two completely different styles. Another way that we can start thinking about the way that your mind works is, which direction does it generally look? You know, when you're contemplating, does it generally look towards the past? Or does it generally look towards the future? Because looking towards the past is a bit more security, facts and figures type sort of process. Looking towards the future is completely speculative, and it's make-believe, because the future hasn't happened yet. So you can't prove anything, it hasn't happened. So it's not tangible, you can't put your hand on anything in the future. It's kind of sort of a big guess. But in the past we can see, yes, that's done, so it must be right, it's provable, it's testable, we can quantify it, and all of those sorts of things. So 75% of the population tend to look towards the past, 25% of the population tend to look towards the future as their dominant view. So we want to know, where does it line up for you? And there's a very good reason why 75% are past-based and 25% are future-based. And, you know, at some point we can explain that in great detail. The next we'd like to know is how do you like to learn? Do you like to learn by taking a whole bunch of provable, testable, factual data and sort of stringing it all together and systemizing it, or looking at somebody else's system? Yes, it's been done, so yes, it's proven, so I will actually do it this way. So something for you has to be real, it has to be quantifiable, it has to be proven, and I can add to it, I can tweak to it, all of those sorts of things. Or do you like learning by trial and error? Basically having a bit of a hunch and a whim, and I'll go off and I'll do something, and that's the way that I'll learn. I'll learn by sort of hands-on, but it's always future-based. I'll learn by saying a whole bunch of what ifs, what ifs, what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. Here's a way that you can also know. If you're sitting at a performance, and it could be the movies, or it could be a live performance on the stage. Generally, partners are kind of sort of a bit different on this. Generally, there are those people that will be fully immersed in the performance. Okay, so they're in the moment, they're getting all of the music, all of the nuances, they're just, you know, they're living, eating, sleeping and breathing all of those nuances. Somebody else will be, I wonder how they did that. I wonder what's going on backstage. I wonder how that thing works. So if you ever see Cirque du Soleil, somebody's really being awed, and somebody else is thinking about what's underneath there. So they're already now a step in front of the performance. They're missing the performance because they're trying to figure it all out. Okay, so that different learning styles. And so again, if you can be one or the other, and that will be your form of genius. The other way that you can start thinking about whether you're actually working in your genius at the moment is whether or not you feel like that you're in a maze and you just don't know your way out. If you feel a little bit directionless, if you feel like that there's not a real lot of passion left for actually what you're doing, if you feel like that maybe you really want to change, if you're not being as productive as you'd like, maybe you even feel like you're actually in the wrong life, then there's a pretty fair bet you're actually not working within your genius style. The biggest indicator is feeling as though that you're actually in the wrong business, or in fact that you're actually in the wrong money code, or that you're actually in the wrong life, or that you're in the wrong experience, and you just keep hitting these brick walls. And for you, a brick wall will mean that you get less and less adventurous as you move forward in maturity, and you lose a bit more time and a bit more money. And so again, it's a kind of again, remember that the consumption code consumes every area of your life. It consumes your dreams, your future, your passions, your thoughts, your ability to get off the treadmill. Changing your money code and literally working within your genius style really does represent not only the birth of the rest of your life, it really represents the birth of your unrealized or unmet or new potential, if you like. The potential that you haven't actually managed to experience by yourself, but you know, somewhere deep inside, you know that there's more that you can actually experience. There's more potential that you can actually tap into. But it's the type of potential that you don't seem to be able to get yourself to experience. And that's where support actually comes in. And that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. And you know, the program that I do it in is known in Perth as the Money Mastery program, because what it really does is it teaches you how to actually move from a consumption code to an enterprise code. It's really been described as the Swiss Army knife of empowerment programs, because it really does tackle just about every phase of your life, both from a professional point of view but also a personal point of view, because again, you've got to start melding those experiences so that you can actually realize more of your unmet potential. And what it does is it combines a whole series of things together. And some of the things that it combines together is what I call self-mastery, because you've got to drive the vehicle, but you can only drive the vehicle the way that your mind allows you to drive it. And so that's mind mastery, and that's where we start changing the codes. And it really brings that together with financial mastery, but the umbrella that it goes into the enterprise with is heart-based entrepreneurial mastery, because there are so many entrepreneurs now that will basically do anything just to win. Well, I am just not interested. I am sick to death of going to seminars, and it's just a flog fest. I will not go. I stopped actually going to them probably about 10 years ago. And I just really don't. There's so many good books that you can read. But people do need the space to learn, to grow, and to breathe again. And so that's what I call heart-based entrepreneurial mastery, where it's actually a win-win. It's a unison of empowerment for the person that actually wants to realize more of their potential. And you can only really do that from a heart-centered perspective rather than a me-centric perspective, if you like. And it brings it all together into a mastermind group as we all journey forward. And that mastermind group is, of course, the real power, as Napoleon Hill said. The power of achievement is actually based in the mastermind. The problem with masterminds, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, the problem with masterminds is that people think that they go and get in a group with their peers and that that's a mastermind. It's actually not. It's actually only a like mind. There is no mastermind there. You have to start mixing with the people that are so far in front of you, it kind of sort of, you've got to get a nosebleed in order to catch up to them. That's the mastermind, because they can take you to places that you can't take yourself. Like minds can only take you to the same place that they're at. That's not where you want to be. So there's, in the Money Mastery program, it's a year long. There are 10 Money and Freedom Accelerator weekends. What that means is that once a month for 10 months, we meet in a classroom, and in fact it's this room, on a Friday, a Saturday and Sunday, and basically that's where I download content on all of the subject areas that we're going to cover. If you actually want to look at the content for Money Mastery, you can actually grab this document. It's on the front page of my website, and my website is www.counsel.com.au. C-O-U-N-S-E-L. The C-I-L is my rich father who doesn't speak to me. The S-E-L is the wisdom type, all right? Just scroll down, and you'll see the Money Mastery program there. That's the link. Just click on that and that document will come up. So there's 10 of them, and basically those weekends are really it's part and parcel of, let's say, the eruditeness of Money Mastery. You need an A and a B. Without content, we can't actually educate the mind. So we need content, but we also need to then, twist and tweak that content for you and your particular genius now. And that's why I do unlimited one-on-one mentoring. In the mentoring, which is I'm just sitting with you, nobody else around, now we're taking the content and now we're saying, okay, this is this and this, and these are opportunities and these are opportunities, and now we need to develop skill bases and here, there and everywhere. But we're working at your speed, and I call that the speed of grace. It's much more efficient to travel at the speed of grace than it is to travel at the speed of impatience. Don't buy into impatience. You'll blow a fuse and it just takes you so much longer. Remember that there is no shortcut. There is no get rich quick. Never has been, never will be, because it doesn't change your code. You can win money, you can make piles of money, but you'll lose again. Think about everybody that's ever won pools or lotto. Less than 1% have actually their winnings left after a few years. 2 residential weekends, they complement the other, that makes up the 12-month series. One is local. The residential weekends are really, really important because there are things that I can teach you in a residential weekend that I can't teach you in a classroom. There are things that I can get you to experience that I can't actually teach you in any other way other than getting you to have an experience of it. So that's experiential learning. In a classroom, we call that semantic learning. So it's book learning, okay? The experiential, when I put those two together, that's the wholeness process. One of those is local and the other one is international. They happen about month 4 and month 9. So Money Mastery program starts next month in April. So 4 months after that is a local away, and then month 9, which I think is in November. It'll be month 8. It'll be in November, and so then we go on an international one. You actually get your Genius Style Assessment, and then you get the analysis. So the analysis actually takes a lot of time, and it doesn't generally happen in one sitting. It sort of unfolds over regular contact, because you've got to sort of think about this and then come back and ask questions, and think about this and then come back and ask questions. So it kind of unfolds. If you already have your Genius test done, then we'll actually refund the amount of money that you've spent on that. You also have, and this is one of my absolute passion favourites. It's not well known, the topic of spiral dynamics, but spiral dynamics is the evolution and the development of human consciousness. It's how you think about what you think about. There's literally 7 stages of that consciousness. In fact, it's the work of Claire W. Graves. He researched it for about 20 odd years. It was that knowledge that was taken to Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk, and it allowed the dismantling of apartheid. When you understand that it's not a race or a colour or a stereotype issue, it's a how you think about what you think about type issue. So once you understand that 7 different ways, there's so much more. So what we do is we take a snapshot of you as soon as you start the program, and I actually hold that. I don't give it to you, I don't share it with you. And then when you finish the program, we take another snapshot of you, and then that's when we bring both snapshots, and then in the last program, we look at the before and after. Because it's hard to know how well you've changed. And so we're actually going to literally, basically x-ray your mind, take a snapshot, and then show you the before and after pictures, which is proof positive that those neuro pathways are actually changing. You know, what you value has to change in order for you to progress. If what you value doesn't change, you stay where you are. And that's the history of evolution. We have this really, really unique goal, which is a free plus $1 goal. What that means is, in order to learn anything, in order to access something, chances are you have to put in a bit of time, chances are you have to put in a bit of effort, chances are you actually have to buy some knowledge, buy some space. Now, when I started out, I didn't actually have the money. I didn't have the money to go on everything. I was actually dead flat broke. In fact, I was really struggling to spend $75. But I needed a tool because I couldn't get anybody to do any work in the house. Okay, I had to do it all myself, and I actually needed a planer because I couldn't buy timber that was already dressed, so I had to go and to wreck houses to get old timbers. But the only way that I could smooth them up is to get an electric planer. Okay, and that was $75, but I didn't actually have $75. I worked all day for $15 a day just to get the timber. Okay, so $15 a day, not $15 an hour, $15. I was a gopher. If anybody has been on a building site and you know what a gopher does, I was a gopher. But I would do whatever they wanted me to do because they let me to take away some old timbers that they couldn't sell, and basically I built half a house with that stuff and a planer. But I had to get the money back from the planer. So basically I made a rule. If I was going to invest in anything, that whatever I invested in owed me whatever the price of investment was plus $1. Okay? So how do I get my $75? Because I'm not a tradesperson or anything like that. Basically I got my planer, and this was about 41 at the time. So here's this 41. Now, you know, hair down here, beard down here, blue singlet, shorts, thongs, planer, door to door. I've got a planer. Have you got a stuck window or a stuck door? Give me $5 and I'll unstick it for you. That's it. Until I got $75. Then the next job, now that planer was free. I have never broken that rule. I have never broken that rule. We're just talking, that year that I spent with Tony Robbins, I spent a whole year with Tony Robbins. It cost me $300,000. Now you've got to have a bit of a big heart, a bit of courage to invest that sort of money in yourself. But I had a rule. I wanted what he knew. I wanted access to all of the people that he could have access to. I wanted access to all the people that could actually teach me. So what was the rule? $300,000 plus $1. I did not break that rule. I have never broken the rule. I buy a book, $29, it owes me $29 plus $1. That's how I actually generate my financial freedom. Don't break the rules. They're very, very simple rules. And so you've got to invest in your learning. So I insist that you make your learning free. Whatever it costs you to join us on the Money Mastery program, you've now got 12 months left with my support to get that investment back plus $1. And I'll help you. All you've got to do is have the belief that you can actually do it. If I can't give you that belief, I can show you what other people have done. Of course, you can actually get a better return than the plus $1. Does everybody get plus $1? No. Some people don't need it. They just need the tax deduction. That's okay. Later on, they're not there for that. They're there for the mind mastery. They're not there for the money. Make sense? Yeah. Other people who are there for the money, yeah, absolutely they get it. Some people are somewhere in between. It just really depends on how much support they actually have at home, really, when you think about it. But that's that free plus $1, and we actually give you a spreadsheet and a way to track it and a way to actually load it in. And pretty much everybody that wants to achieve it with my support, they actually achieve it. And it's really interesting how I actually will support you, and people don't believe it, but in fact it's actually true. The Money Mastery Blueprint is something that I'm really, really excited about. It's the first year that it's actually ever been offered, and what I'll do is I'll actually invite Alan to come up and talk to you about the Money Mastery Blueprint, because basically this has been You know, it's Alan that's actually given birth to all of this, so I'll just invite Alan to come up. And this is all Alan's handiwork, and this is the first time I've actually seen it tonight, but I'm so stoked and I'm so impressed.
Thanks, Paul.